Yo, what's up everybody, King GBL here, and welcome back to some Go Battle League. Today I'm going to be showcasing the PvPoke rankings for next season. The website's actually been updated. I'm sure you guys probably seen a few screenshots earlier of the upcoming season. You're going to see here that looking at these rankings, these Pokemon are a little bit different, so I want to say a big thank you and a big shout out to PvPoke. They do amazing work for the community and they've updated these rankings for us. In today's video, we're going to have a look for all of the rankings, have a meta analysis, and try to help you guys get ready and prepare for next season, and of course give you some ideas of what to look out for. We can have a look into some of the matchups, see how they compare to the current ones, and I think in general, we can really just break all of this down. If you enjoyed today's video, drop a like, subscribe, it's absolutely free. I'm going to be showcasing an Ultra League version of this video later, so stay tuned, and without any further ado, let's hop into it. So as you can see here with buff Poison Sting, Clodsire is looking very strong now. We're going to be preferring the movesets of Poison Sting, Earthquake, Stone Edge. We're seeing the Carbink here is rank 2, Alligator and Shadow are rank 3 and 4 respectively. I think Pokemon this season that have not been nerfed, which have quick pacing to hard-hitting moves like Hydro Cannon, are all going to be very good this season. Pokemon that did not get nerfed, things like Mandibuzz here, these Pokemon are going to be very strong, so keep an eye out for them. I think things like Umbreon and Azumarill will definitely be quite strong as well. We're seeing Dunsparce with buff rollout. We'll have a look at the actual move itself now. As you can see here, we got 4.33 energy per turn with 2.6 damage per turn on rollout. What we can do is actually have a look at the full list of fast moves in this video to see exactly what these moves are going to be. Mudslap Gastrodon looking quite interesting. It's going to be the preferred mud boy. Not a huge fan of this personally. I'm not a huge fan of fast move pressure Pokemon and mud slappers and things like that in general. We're getting to these body slams in 4-3, which is pretty crazy, and of course the hard-hitting Earth Power. Gastrodon, now the mud boy of choice, which is kind of crazy to think about. Mandibuzz is going to be very strong this season. Again, it hasn't really been touched. It has fantastic stat product, and I think Mandibuzz is going to be pretty much everywhere in the meta. As you can see here, probably the most surprising update is Shadow Machamp. Karate Chop allowing this to get to these moves in 4, and very interestingly as well, we're going to be preferring the moveset of Stone Edge, which is going to be 7 for the first one, and then straight 6. Rock Slide, as you can see, going down to 78 damage, 45 energy. We are going to prefer Stone Edge, and getting to Cross Chops in straight 4 is absolutely amazing. Bastiodon, despite its nerf, is still going to be very strong, and it's going to be a wall to particular Pokemon. If you have a look at the meta, we're going to see a lot of Mandibuzz, Carbink. So Bastiodon, while it won't be quite as annoying in neutral matches, is still going to serve itself very well in these matchups where it can basically RPS things like Mandibuzz and Carbink. Clefable, quite interestingly here, is rank 10 in the Great League. With Moonblast and the updated Swift, we're getting to these every 4 Fairy Winds. Fairy Wind received a buff in damage, and it's going to be picking up a lot more matches. So Quagsire, even with the Mudshot nerf, it's going to do extra damage with Mudshot, and it gets to these Aqua Tails in 5-4-5-4, and Stone Edge, instead of being 7-6-7, will be straight 7. One of the biggest updates this season is the fact that moves are going to be a little bit slower with a lot of these Pokemon. Licky though, with buff rollout, is the Licky of choice now. Body Slam, Shadow Ball, fantastic coverage, and this is such an interesting pick. As you guys can see from this top 20 or so Pokemon, no sign of Skarmory, Whiscash, Annihilate, and all of the meta Pokemon that you're used to. Lickitung is not here, of course. I think that's crazy if you think about it. As mentioned here, Azumarill is going to be quite good. Drapion, fantastic moveset. Poison Sting got the buff. This is going to be looking very good. As I mentioned in yesterday's video here as well, Jumpluff Shadow could be the flyer of choice. I believe Jumpluff Shadow here is actually the #1 ranked flyer in the Great League. That's hugely interesting. It's got fantastic stat product. Fairy Wind, it's a really good move now. It has spammy Aerialus, or if you would prefer like me, going for Acrobatics can be quite good too. I think with Jumpluff, with its stat product, you typically need to throw 2 moves, so perhaps buff Fairy Wind and Aerialus will be much better. But we're getting to these Aerialuses in 5-4, and of course the damage per turn has went up on the Fairy Wind. Shadow Marowak, being the best ground type, quite interesting. Bone Club got quite a substantial update here. It actually has quite a decent move, 35 energy with 79.2 damage, including the team type attack bonus. Once again, Toxapex, a Pokemon that's not been touched. We'll be seeing some greater play in this meta. If you have a look at it, there aren't that many Mud Boys, and Toxapex is going to be doing very well into this top sort of section of Pokemon here. It's going to be doing pretty fine into Clodsire. It's not a great matchup, of course, but you're going to be able to beat things like Carbink for Alligator. Does very well into Mandibuzz, Machamp. It has a fairly neutral matchup with Bastiodon. I think Toxapex is going to be quite good, of course beating things like Jumpluff as well. When you get out of the top 20, we're starting to see things like Gallade, Non-Shadow Quagsire, Registeel, despite Zap Cannon being presumably a 50% chance of debuffing, is still pretty highly ranked, and I think still has a lot of play in this next meta. We're seeing Regirock surge up the rankings a little bit here with Stone Edge Focus Blast. We're seeing that Alolan Sandslash, actually the non-Shadow version, is getting a massive boost here as well, as one of the better steel types in the meta. As mentioned yesterday, Diggersby's going to prefer quick attack. We're seeing Golurk here with fantastic coverage. This can be used with Mud Slap or Astonish, both of which have received massive updates. Finally, we're seeing some Whiscash in the meta, ranked 32. And I think at this point, guys, you can see all of these rankings for yourself. Geoeasy, looking pretty fine. As with any Great League meta, you're going to be able to use any of these like top 100 Pokemon. I just think it's really interesting looking at the positioning of these Pokemon that we're only seeing Lickitung here now at rank 62, Wigglytuff rank 64, basically because despite its buff, all of the top Pokemon do very well into it. I think things like Dugong with its neutral play will be very good next season. We're seeing here that Surf is now 15 Water Guns instead of 14-13, which is quite a big update. We're seeing Whimsicott here once again with buff Fairy Wind. Cresselia is going to be preferring Moonblast, and yeah, overall, I think these updates are very, very interesting. I think we're just seeing a lot less power creep. We're seeing buffed Togetic right here, and I think at this point, guys, I want to start having a look to see where all of our meta Pokemon have gotten to. Annihilate getting to Night Slash in 6, and 10-9 for Shadow Ball. That really kills this Pokemon. Skarmory, straight 10-9 for Brave Bird and 10-9 for Sky Attack. As we mentioned, Lickitung, no longer the preferred Licky. I think that's absolutely fantastic that we're not using the fully XL version of Licky to have a normal, neutral Pokemon in the Great League. Having a look at all of the ground Pokemon, we're seeing that Mudboys are no longer necessarily preferred. We're seeing that Clodsar is the rank 1, Gastrodon with Mud Slap, but these Mudshot users are just basically nerfed into the ground. Whiscash, straight 5 for Mud Bomb, 7-6 for Scald. Swampert, straight 5 for Hydro Cannons now, 9-8 for Earthquake. Galarian Stunfisk, this Pokemon is absolutely dead. 6-6-5 for Rock Slide, 9-8 for Earthquake, this Pokemon is dead. The original Stunfisk, I'm surprised this is not a little bit higher, but this is definitely going to be preferring Thundershock. Gradient here, 5-4 for Body Slam instead of straight 4. Massive update. Interestingly here, we're seeing the Poliwrath is on Counter, Scald and Icy Wind. Poliwrath in this next meta picks up 13 wins and 20 losses with this moveset. Even if you put it on Bubble, it's not looking super hot for it. I think maybe Bubble, Dynamic Punch, Icy Wind could be the move for Poliwrath. This Pokemon definitely is looking very interesting now. Now, very interestingly here, if we look at the Pokemon that have Wing Attack available, Gligar is now moving over to Fury Cutter. Fury Cutter, a much spammier move. It's going to retain the pacing of 10 turns for an Aerial Ace. It's actually 13-12 for the dig with Fury Cutter, so we're going to see Gligar and Gliscor probably move over to that moveset instead. Super interestingly, Galarian Moltres here, moving over to Sucker Punch, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is a counter clone from last season. Pelipper still using Wing Attack, is completely dead, and as is Mantine. Charizard is now moving over to Fire Spin, which I think is just absolutely hilarious. Rip all of our fast TMs. Pidgeot is now moving over to Gust, and you're just seeing just some absolutely huge changes here. Noctowl actually now preferring the moveset of Nightshade. I think we do need some flyers in the meta, but for example, with something like Mantine right here, I wouldn't be surprised to see this on Bullet Seed, although it doesn't really pick up anything here. Even with Bubble, not looking too hot. It's fair to say, at this moment in time, the flyers are basically dead in this meta. With all of the flyers being pretty dead, I'm hoping to see somewhat of a resurgence for Grass-type Pokemon. However, we are seeing here that in the top 30, we're only really seeing Jumpluff, Superior, Chestnut, Trevenant being ranked 121. It's looking like Grass-type is not quite making the resurgence that we might have hoped. If you look at the meta, things like Clodsar are very good into Grass types. I think Grass could be quite the big core breaker here, especially Grass Poisons. If you think about something like a Venusaur, beats Clodsar, beats Carbink, beats Feraligatr, can do very well into Dunsparce, destroys this. Of course, a little bit rough into Mandibles, beats Machamp, does very well into Bastiodon, beats Clefable. You're going to be resisting these moves. Beats the Quagsire, probably does fine into Lecky, does well into Marowak, does very fine into Toxapex. Has Sludge Bomb coverage for the Jumpluff, and of course doesn't do too well into this, but of course will beat Azumarill. Super effective Frenzy Plants for Auroras, which is quite interesting. I do think in the PvPoke rankings, Grass is a little bit underrepresented here, because I think even things like a Moongus with Astonish could be quite interesting, but I do highly anticipate we're going to see a lot more things like Venusaur. I'm very interested to see Empoleon here. Now thankfully, what I hoped was going to happen has actually happened. Metal Claw allows Empoleon to get to these moves in straight 6. That's absolutely fantastic. Metal Claw, not going to be doing the same damage as Steel Wing, but still gives Empoleon this really good pacing. I think Empoleon is more about getting to these moves a little bit faster than the actual fast move pressure itself. I do think Shadow Empoleon is going to be a little bit better, because Metal Claw is not quite as good as Steel Wing for damage, so I do think you're probably going to want Empoleon Shadow. Having a look at Counter here, we're seeing the Counter is just basically out of this meta completely. there's not a single Pokemon in the top 130 that receive counter or that use counter. We're seeing Poliwrath, Medicham, Ape, all looking very, very low. I do think Scrafty and some of these Pokemon could use some sort of a side update. Defense Deoxys looking like it's absolutely dead. And we're seeing here that things like Ursaring are preferring Shadow Claw. Donphan now wants Mud Slap, of course the Machamp of Karate Chop. Lowkicks now wants Sucker Punch, which is quite interesting. Primeape is moving over to Karate Chop. The update to counter has had a huge impact. Now having a quick look at Razer Leaf. Razer Leaf just got absolutely obliterated and I'm so happy for it. I think we can see here that Victreebel now prefers its Community Day move, which I think, you know, in hindsight, Niantic probably done this Community Day in preparation for nerfing Victreebel. Looking at this, Shadow Victreebel ranked all the way down at 295. You absolutely love to see it. Finally guys, we're going to be having a look at what the best moves are in Go Battle League now. Charm is still up there as the best damage per turn move. Razor Leaf of course got that nerf down to 4.5, so it definitely is substantially worse. Dragon Tail here, and Force Palm 4.33 damage per turn. Of course Force Palm having a little bit better energy. Astonish getting quite the buff here, 3.33 energy per turn. This move is almost on par with Force Palm, slightly worse Force Palm. Definitely a very interesting move. You're seeing here that things like Counter are still quite strong moves, but just with the pacing of these Pokemon, this is definitely going to be more about the fast move pressure. We're seeing Mudslap being a very good move here as well, 3.33 energy per turn and 4 damage per turn. That kind of range is very, very good. As you can see here, Incinerate is 4 and 4, so 4 and 3.3 for a free turn move is definitely very strong. Putting it up to energy per turn, Lock On here of course 5, which is why Registeel is still going to be very good. We're seeing Karate Chop here, fantastic move now, 4.5 energy per turn, and you can see here that it has quite a big trade-off. It has 2.5 damage per turn, so it is still slightly better than Fairy Wind. Fairy Wind and Poison Sting are now clones, and as you can see here, they're just a better version of Psycho Cut, which is absolutely fantastic. Rollout here being an absolutely crazy move, 4.33 energy, 2.66 damage, very, very strong move in this upcoming meta. It's basically like a Snarl or a Bullet Seed with 1 extra damage per turn, which is fantastic. A lot of people thought Shadow Claw might get nerfed. I think it's looking pretty fine the way it is here. Of course, Volt Switch having the same damage and energy profile. It's definitely interesting seeing Mudshot being so low. Now 4 energy per turn and 2 damage per turn. This move has definitely just, yeah, it's definitely seen better days. Typically Mudshot was a Thundershock clone, so 1.5 and 4.5. This is going from 1.5 to 2 and 4.5 to 4. So that is quite a big impact. As you can see here, Sucker Punch, quite an interesting move. It looks like a better version of Poison Jab. I think this is definitely just old counter. So any Pokemon that are getting buffed with Sucker Punch should be very interesting in the upcoming metas. Metal Claw right here is basically a Spark clone, which I do find to be quite interesting. I think Metal Claw definitely could be buffed a little bit, but you run the risk of making things like Galarian Stunfisk and Registeel run it. So I think it is very good that Metal Claw offers a faster pacing option for things like Empoleon. Wing Attack here is basically now a nerfed Spark. It's going to be noticeably different. We haven't even touched on Fire Spin right here. 3.33 energy per turn, 3.66 damage per turn. Absolutely fantastic. We'll actually have a look at this. So looking at damage per turn multiplied by energy per turn, this shows us what the best moves in the game are at this point. Incinerate, Force Palm, Sucker Punch, Astonish, Mudslap, Dragon Tail, Poison Jab, Fire Spin. All of these right up here as the best moves in the game at this current point. Dragon Breath still very good. And as you can see, a lot of these moves that weren't here before, like Rollout and Karate Chop, are definitely making a huge splash. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Let me know what your thoughts and opinions are in the comment section down below. Drop a like and subscribe. I don't know about you guys, but I'm super excited for these updates. And of course, stay tuned. I should be showcasing an Ultra League version of this video later on today. Take care of yourselves, have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll catch you all next time.